I just finished Horizon Forbidden West and my thumbs are sore, but I feel satisfied. From an Xbox fan's perspective, is this a great way to spend your time from the daily grind? Welcome to Busy Dad Gaming, the place for busy dads and all things Xbox. One of the biggest challenges as a dad is time. You have things like your job, you have your spouse, you have kids' activities, you have maybe trying to get a workout in. All of these things do take away from that time. So when you finally do get some time to game, that time is worth more than gold. So with that being said, I did have some time as an Xbox owner to go and play my PS5 and play Horizon Forbidden West and determine whether it's enough to actually get you to go buy a PlayStation 5 or if it's enough to even get you off the fence to go into a different ecosystem altogether. So to take a look at Horizon Forbidden West, we're going to take a look at the graphics, the story, whether the game is fun or not, and is this game enough to get you to go buy a PS5? And first up is graphics. Now, I haven't had a chance to play God of War Ragnarok yet, but Horizon Forbidden West is easily one of the best looking games I've seen on any console to date. Now, one thing is that you may have seen the memes about Aloy's face in the news or Twitter or whatever, and as I was playing the game, I didn't really notice any issues there. The game's open world looks beautiful, the stunning landscapes, and the intricate details that truly immerse the player in the world. Now, I'll chat a bit more about the open world under is this game fun, but for now I really did enjoy my time there. Now there are two graphical settings when you're jumping into this game, one on performance and one on quality. Now I personally ended up playing the entire game on performance because I just like the 60 frames per second. 30 is just really hard for me to go back to. You can do quality, which does give you ray tracing and things of that nature. So when there was a very beautiful vista or things that I really wanted to see in as highest quality as I could, then I'd switch it over to quality, but otherwise I played the majority of the game in performance mode. Now, with that being said, one of the biggest things I saw when reviewers are going through and reviewing this game was that it was a lot of pop-in, there was a lot of hitching. Just from a performance standpoint, it could have been done better. And I personally, after this long, after the game's been released, I didn't run into any of those issues. There was still pop-in, but it wasn't horrendous. There was a little bit of hitching, but that was in the quality mode. Performance, I didn't see anything. So overall, the performance and the graphical standards of this game were amazing. Definitely one of the best things, as I mentioned, I've seen on console today. And that brings us to story. And with the story, it takes place directly after Horizon Zero Dawn. So if you haven't played that game or watched a video on it, make sure to do that before you do play this game because it is a direct sequel. It takes place roughly 6 months after the game. And if you want to get caught up, it does have a thing at the beginning of the game where you can go and watch all the major story beats. So that's something you can go and check out. I personally did enjoy the story. I enjoyed how it ended. Some people didn't enjoy how it ended. That's something that's very subjective. But overall, the story is something I really did enjoy. For me, when a story is really good, I am enticed to continue to find out what happens next. And this story did that for me. So that's how I tell if a story is good for me. Does it drive me to see what happens next? And in Horizon Forbidden West, it did. Now, next up is the game actually fun? And I'm happy to report, yes, it is. And I enjoyed it so much so that I actually played it exclusively for a few weeks just to find out what happened in the story. Now, there are plenty of different ways to have fun when it comes to a game. It could be the gameplay loop, it could end up being the story, it could be a number of different things. But in this particular game, you also had the story and the gameplay loop. So the gameplay loop itself was entertaining enough. It was enough to get me to keep coming back, but it was really the story that drove me forward for the most part. Now, to be fair, there are going to be folks that enjoy the Elden Ring experience from an open world perspective. There's going to be some that like the Ubisoft experience. This is kind of somewhere in the middle, but overall, it was an enjoyable time. Which brings me to the open world again for just a moment, because not only was it expansive, it looked great, but you also had a different way of going about it. So you could pick an Elden Ring where pretty much the entire map was blank and you just explored for the most part. You also have the Ubisoft spam where there's just things everywhere on this map. So you have the ability to change how you interact with the open world map, which was very beneficial. Now, the bow itself was actually fun for the most part. The gameplay hook right here is being able to use the bow or the different types of weapons that you have. And then you can also end up upgrading those weapons and you can upgrade the skills that are associated with those weapons. So again, just kind of like with Horizon Zero Dawn, you had those areas, but this ends up expanding on it much, much more. So how you choose to engage with the game, where you want to go more melee or you want to go more sharpshooter or whatever the case ends up being, the game does give you that opportunity. Now, as I mentioned, I did have a lot of fun with this game, but I don't feel it is something where I'm going to go and do a New Game Plus where I enjoyed it that much. It wasn't like Ghost of Tsushima for me, where I ended up playing through it multiple times, whereas this game played through it for the story for the most part, not necessarily the gameplay, so New Game Plus for me isn't going to be super beneficial. And lastly, is this game worth picking up? Now, as an Xbox fan and channel, I wanted to give a different perspective on this game as opposed to just being a PlayStation only channel and just giving that particular perspective. So I wanted to make sure to have different perspectives as I go into different games. Now, to be fair, PlayStation is fantastic when it comes to their first party titles for the most part. They are very third-person action adventure oriented with typically a very good narrative-driven game. I am a sucker for a great narratively driven game. I love having a great story in the game. That's why some of my favorite games like KOTOR is one of my favorite games. But that brings it back to the question of, is this game enough to get you to go pick up a PlayStation and dive into that ecosystem if you're an Xbox fan? Now, chances are if you are already a PlayStation fan, you're probably already trying to get or already have a PS5, so this isn't really relevant for you. So I'd say if you can afford the PS5 and you really enjoy those style of games, yeah, go and pick it up. Is this game going to be a console driver? I would say probably not. I would say God of War is probably going to be a bigger console driver than Horizon Forbidden West. I could be wrong, but that's what I see so far. A lot of great games coming up in 2023 that, again, a game like this, depending on where it lands, is going to have a lot of stiff competition. And so I don't feel that this particular game is going to drive a lot of console sales, but if you already have a PS5 or already planning on getting one, definitely I would suggest picking this game up. Now, PlayStation really does have the better first-party games, and they have had for quite a while. If you haven't watched my previous video to this, I really did get into more depth of 2023 really needs to be Xbox's year because the first-party gap is just widening, and Xbox really needs to show up to really start to take back some of that market share. Right now, PlayStation is just crushing it with their first-party titles and overall console sales. Hopefully, Xbox can go ahead and launch some great first-party titles. I see some like Redfall coming up. You have Forza, you have Starfield. There's a lot of great potential. So we'll see how things actually pan out. Next up, I'll be playing God of War, so I'm really looking forward to that one. I'm a couple hours into it so far, but really enjoying the narrative direction that game is providing. Now, in the comments below, let me know what games you're looking forward to in 2023, and I'll see you in the comments.